Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Sonic Yoda from SEGADriven.com, and welcome back to the Sega Driven YouTube channel. Now, I've been meaning to do a follow-up to a video we did last year where we took a look at this piece of hardware. This is the AtGames Mega Drive Arcade Classic. Little Mega Drive clone system, Mega Drive on a chip basically. Allows you to play your actual games via a cartridge slot, but it also has a lot of built-in stuff. And yeah, I was always kind of interested in it, never owned one, bought one very cheap and just decided to put it through its paces and see how well it performs as a budget Mega Drive aftermarket, you know, alternative to an actual Mega Drive. So I've been meaning to do a follow-up because I've wanted to check out this. So this is the Mega Drive Flashback. This is the first model. There is a second model that features an SD card port which allows you to update the firmware, but I don't have that. This is the original one, which is completely locked down. Now, it's a similar thing to the Arcade Classic in that it features a cartridge slot to play your actual Mega Drive games on, a load of built-in stuff, but the main difference is we've got a HDMI port. So this is a HD Mega Drive clone, and alternative to this system, which is a Mega Drive on a chip, which uses, you know, actual hardware, this uses emulation. So yeah, it's a little bit different to the typical AtGames product, and yeah, with the weird sort of system on a chip solution, we got some strange stuff like the sound wasn't correct. It would play at the wrong speed, the wrong pitch. It was not very good at replicating the sound of a Mega Drive, but it played at full speed 50 Hz PAL, but it was still full speed. It was fairly compatible with an awful lot of stuff, but when we threw things at it that was sort of like custom hardware built into the cartridge, like additional controller ports or things like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, where, you know, you combine the games and they become a different bit of software, it didn't like that sort of stuff. So we're going to go and put the Flashback through the exact same process. I've got the exact same set of hardware here, so software, sorry. So we've got Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Japanese copies, just because we'll see exactly how it performs with Japanese games as well. Speaking of Japanese games, we've also got Pulseman, so that'll be interesting to see how well that works. We've also got a PAL copy of Sonic 3D, because that does some interesting graphical trickery with its opening cutscene and stuff that's a little bit more demanding, and it might be a good demo to see how well it accurately sort of reproduces games. We've got some third-party games. So we've got Super Skid Marks, which is a Codemasters game. It's a J-card, so it features additional controller ports. Not expecting that to work because of the additional hardware, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what that does. Also, speaking of Codemasters, here's just a normal Codemasters third-party game. This is Man Overboard. No J-card stuff, so this should work fine. We've also got my flash card. We'll see if we can boot ROMs on it. We'll see what it does. It's worth a check. We've also got another third-party game in the form of Accolade's Winter Challenge. I like to try this one because it's got polygons, so we'll see how well it renders polygons. And the final game is a reproduction cartridge. This is Alien Soldier. Let's just see how well it works with reproduction software. It'll just be interesting to see how well it copes with those sort of things. So let's get this thing plugged in, and as a start, we'll kick off with something built into the system. We'll play Sonic 1 because most people are familiar with that game and how it sounds and how it should play, and we'll see how well it performs. Right then, let's turn this sucker on and get Sonic 1 going. Go through its boot process first. Should get an AtGames logo at some point. The dreaded AtGames. There we go. Right. So let's get a menu, hopefully. There we go. Right. So I have favorited every single one of the unique games on this system, but there are bonus games which are basically, you know, aftermarket homebrew titles which have been included to pad the things out. But we'll go through everything that's unique to it first so that you can get an idea of what is on the system. Pause the video if you do want to, you know, see exactly what games are on here. It's a mixture of Mega Drive and Master System games. There's Sonic 1 down there. And then final page is this. But like I say, there are bonus games as well. So we're going to jump into Sonic 1. Let's turn the sound up a bit so you can hear what this is capable of. So the music is at full speed, which makes me think this is either the NTSC ROM, or if it is the PAL ROM, it's running at 60 Hertz, which is interesting. Now, you can't see this on camera because I film with 30 FPS, but performance is pretty choppy. This is dropping frames, which is a bit strange. I'm guessing it's due down to the emulation method that they're using for this system, but unfortunately, yeah, that's not a steady FPS, which is a bit of a shame. It is not a deal breaker though, because it plays fine. It's good enough for what you want to do with it. But if you're looking for the full 60 FPS experience with no frame drops, this isn't that, unfortunately. But the big improvement is the sound. It's a considerable improvement over the arcade classic. It sounds like Sonic 1. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. So I suppose the next thing to check out then is a 60 FPS game and make sure that the sound playback is at the correct speed, and then we'll know if this is running at 60 FPS or 50. So here we go, things are going to get interesting now. We've got Pulseman in the system and it has recognised it. So let's kick it into action and see what happens. Well, it's running, that's a good start. And the music is playing back at the correct speed. So I'm guessing we've got a 60 Hz system on our hand here. That's pretty cool because it does mean that we obviously get, you know, the correct playback speed. Things aren't slowing down because they're running in PAL. I don't mind that too much because, you know, I've grown up in the PAL region, so I'm used to those sort of things. But yeah, I'm impressed, to be honest with you. Despite the frame rate dropping that we experienced with Sonic 1, and I'm assuming every game on the system, yeah, we're basically getting a pretty decent little home console here using emulation. Interesting. I'm just going to jump in quickly to make sure that this is not dropping frames, or if it is dropping frames. Jump into the first stage. So far so good. This is an improvement over the arcade classic because this ran at 50 Hz and the music was considerably slower. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it is dropping frames still. That is obviously just going to be something that happens over the course of this endeavour, unfortunately. But hey, 60 FPS and it's playing imports. That's pretty damn good. Let's move on to something else. Okay, so next up we've got Man Overboard, which is a third-party game by Codemasters. This is a pretty standard cartridge. There's no additional hardware in here. And we're just booting up to see if it recognises it. And it does. The full name of the game is SS Lucifer Man Overboard, which is why it says SF Lucifer there. But yeah. Oh, now. Oh, it doesn't like that. Third-party games might be off limits. So yeah, Super Skid Marks is in the system and it hasn't recognised it. Now that's a real shame. So if all third-party games aren't going to work with this system, that cuts out a huge amount of great software for the Mega Drive. That includes stuff like Accolade games and EA games. Right, so an Accolade game. This is Winter Challenge. It has been recognised. Will it boot? Now that's interesting. We're into the game. So this game features polygonal graphics, which is why I wanted to choose it. Let's see how well it renders them. Okay, so that is working. Interesting that it's very particular about the Codemasters cartridges. Very, very interesting. Okay, let's move on to something else. Now, just for an additional test, I thought I'd do another Codemasters game, and this is Psycho Pinball. No additional hardware into the cartridge itself, like the J-Cart extra controller ports. It's recognised it. Let's see if it boots. Oh, hello. Okay. Now that makes me think that maybe it's just particular Codemasters games, or maybe my cartridges that I tested earlier are a little dirty and they need the contacts cleaned to be able to be recognised by this system. Okay, well, we've got Psycho Pinball working, so that's pretty good. Okay, so not all third-party games are completely, you know, locked out from this system. Maybe I need to give those other Codemasters games a little clean before we continue. Right, so I tried Man Overboard and Super Skid Marks again, and unfortunately, even with some cleaning, those games just do not work on this system. So it is definitely a little bit picky about the Codemasters games. So we're going to move on to Sonic 3D Flicky's Island. It has been recognised, so we're going to kick this into action and see how well it works. Okay, and it's rendering the lovely intro as well. Thought this would be a little bit demanding for this system, but it's doing it. Now, will the music actually sync up with the title screen? That's always the real test. Sonic should punch at the yeah, no. That done. There we go. That's the time when he should be punching the screen. Also, we're getting Sonic 3D Blast on the title screen, not Sonic 3D Flicky's Island, which definitely makes me think that this is an NTSC system. So yeah, because obviously that is the US NTSC name of the game. Cool stuff. Okay, alright, some more success. Let's move on to something else. Now then, when we tested Sonic 3 and Knuckles on the Arcade Classic, this basically only allowed us to play Sonic and Knuckles. It was ignoring the fact that the cartridge was locked on. So yeah, I'm kind of expecting it to do a similar thing. It's recognised something. It says Sonic and Knuckles, so let's see if it actually is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Oh, I don't think it likes this at all. That's a bit of a shame. Wow, it's not even booting one of the games. Okay, I'm going to give this another clean and just make sure everything is working as it should be. Right, so Sonic and Knuckles on its own does in fact work at full speed. Sound is correct. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm just going to quickly try locking Sonic 3 onto it again to see if it does boot or not. Right, well, here we go again. Locked onto Sonic and Knuckles. It has detected something. We're going to start the game and see what happens. It's just Sonic and Knuckles. So, yeah, unfortunately, the combination of the two cartridges does not work. Unsurprising, to be honest with you. It is very specific hardware, and these clone systems just don't have the sort of accuracy to the original machines to be able to pull off something like a combo cartridge. So yeah, unfortunate, but not surprising, to be honest with you. Right, let's move on. So next up is my reproduction copy of Alien Soldier. Now, I'm intrigued to see what happens. It's loading something. It's recognised Alien Soldier. Is it gonna boot into the game? It is, but the music is running at the wrong speed. So we're not getting 60 Hertz, we're getting 50 Hertz. So this must be using some weird BIOS in that it is detecting the games as NTSC, but not the output as NTSC. It's doing it as PAL. Very strange, because obviously we had the NTSC title screen for Sonic 3D, which makes me think that, yeah, we're getting NTSC recognition, but not NTSC playback at 60 Hertz. We're only getting it at 50. Very odd. But, you know, the game works, so unless you're very particular about this game running at 60 Hertz, you know, with the correct playback of the speed, which most people probably will be, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, it functions. You're just playing it in PAL with the wrong speed music, which isn't great, but it does play, and it is playable. Interesting. All right, last thing then is my flash cart. Let's see what happens. Not expecting much from this, but we've got to try it, right? So the flash cart is in the system. I saw the blue light register on boot, and then it just sort of blinked off, which meant that it basically didn't try to access the cartridge at all, and it didn't load anything into memory. I can show you that again quickly if I turn it on and off. Yeah, entirely expected. This is obviously, you know, flashing ROM images into memory. It's hardware that these clone systems is not made to work with, yeah, look, there we go. There's the little access light, and unfortunately the system is not trying to access anything on the cartridge whatsoever. So yeah, flash carts are completely out. A completely expected result, to be honest with you. But there we go. That's kind of the full test of everything that we can really throw at this. So the real thing that I really like, or was attracted to with regards to the Flashback, was the fact that you can do save states. So using this menu, you can actually save games into different slots and load them, and yeah, you have quite a lot of access to different save slots, and you can use your actual cartridges to save progress, which is a really, really attractive prospect for me. Well, obviously we can just, you know, load where I was in Ristar, which is in the final boss, you know, like that's really good. And that's quite an attractive little prospect to be able to buy something at a budget price that uses actual cartridges and gives you a save state feature. That's pretty cool, right? But yeah, it's difficult to recommend this because of the performance issues. Obviously it's dropping frames, which is not great. You know, these are not demanding things anymore. This sort of aftermarket hardware should be able to be able to cope with Mega Drive games running at full speed. It's obviously running in PAL, which is a bit disappointing, but it's running in PAL NTSC, which means we get, you know, the wrong titles for games and things like that. It's a very odd little system. So there we go, guys. That was the Mega Drive AtGames Flashback. Now, it's not a massive disappointment, but it is a little bit disappointing, especially in comparison to the Arcade Classic, which was a lot more compatible with the third-party games. Quite surprised that the newer system definitely had a harder time with the Codemasters games. Yeah, a real disappointment, that, to be honest with you, because there is some noticeably, you know, decent improvements on this in this version. We obviously have better sound. It emulates more correctly to the actual sound of the original Mega Drive, and you know, we've got HD as well. We've got a lovely selection of inbuilt games. We've got the save state feature, which is fantastic. You can use that with your actual cartridges. That was the big thing for me, and I actually did go through my Japanese copy of Alice 3 on this system using save states, because I've never been able to beat that game before, and this gave me the way to do it, you know. So it is quite a nice little system in that regard. Unfortunately, it drops frames, and the performance as a result isn't great. It is perfectly playable if you can put up with that, but you shouldn't have to put up with that. Yeah, it's a real disappointment. What a shame that this isn't as compatible as the previous models, because it has those enhancements that really do make it quite attractive. Now, like I say, there is another model of this which does have the ability to use an SD card to update the firmware, and I don't know what that's like. Maybe one day we'll source one and see how it compares to this version, but if it's got the same compatibility issues with the software, especially the third-party stuff, then it's not much of an improvement, unfortunately. It's a real shame. I wanted this to be, you know, a much better product, but I think it's now become obvious why Sega dumped AtGames after the Flashback, because, you know, they should be able to get this stuff right, unfortunately, and they just never could. This was the closest they got, and like I say, that save state functionality was very attractive to me, and like I say, I've played through games using that, and that is a real bonus for this system. You know, it's so nice to be able to play difficult games using save states and actually get yourself through to the end and see more of the software. But yeah, it's just not that compatible, and unfortunately that inconsistent frame rate is just not something that should be happening on emulation, you know, in this day and age. So yeah, that's the Flashback, the last piece of AtGames licensed, you know, officially licensed Sega hardware that they developed, and it's not much of a swan song, unfortunately.